Did you know that your content keeps working for you for months and months after you post it, quietly driving traffic and growing your list and attracting ready to buy customers on Pinterest? This week's Strategy Talks is a little bit different. We don't usually talk about a very specific platform, but today we are. We're talking about Pinterest with guest Trona Freeman. She helps small businesses use Pinterest and SEO. If you're ready to dive into Pinterest and learn how you can use it to convert, stay tuned. This is Strategy Talks. I will be right back.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Morin-van.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Strategy Talk Season 4 International Strategic Thinkers. We've got a guest with us from Scotland today. I'm very excited. Before I introduce you to her, I want to welcome all of you who are here live with us on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We appreciate you being here. If you have questions, let us know in the comments and we'll be happy to answer them if we can. Now, if you're watching this on the replay, put #replay in the comments on any of these platforms. That will probably let me know that you're there and watching. Post your questions. I'll be scanning for comments. Would love to know your thoughts on Pinterest and SEO, as we'll be discussing that today. Last but not least, for those of you who listen to Strategy Talks as a podcast, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here, and thank you for coming back week after week. So without much further ado, onto the screen with me comes Trona Freeman from Scotland. We're going to talk about Pinterest strategies that convert. Trona, it's 2025. Why are we still talking about Pinterest, and why is it still totally relevant?
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So I think Gen Z is having a large push on Pinterest, actually. They're bigger than they've ever been currently. And with Bill Reddy taking over as CEO over the last few years, he's really changed it to be not only just a place that people shared their content to get traffic, which it did used to be brilliant for that, still is, but it's very much an e-commerce website as well now. People go to shop, they go to plan and to shop now.
Excellent.
So yeah.
So that makes sense. I usually say people go to Pinterest for inspiration, but I love that they're now also going there to shop. And I've heard it be, initially we said it was a social media site. Then we said it was a search, search engine. And now we're also calling it an e-commerce shopping site. Pinterest has gone through a lot of iteration. So this is really good. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this and you haven't given Pinterest much of a thought lately, this might be the spark that you need to get really thinking about how you could use it for yourself or your clients. So Trona, you studied art history. How does that background in visual culture shape your approach to Pinterest SEO and content marketing, right? Are there principles from art history like composition, visual storytelling, symbolism you use in your pinboard design or your strategy or how you work with your clients?
So I think there's really lots of interesting overlaps between art history, visual art, and an approach to Pinterest and visual search. So much of art history, especially if you go back to like the Renaissance, for example, it's iconography. These things mean something's very specific in that time. And that's very much how we work as well. It's a shortcut to communication. It's just a different way that humans think, talk to each other. Adverts are very quick visual. That quick visual works much better than words. So I think, especially with something like Pinterest, where it is this visual first, but it's also driven by keywords, works really well for somebody who does like come from an art historian background. People are often surprised at that, but much of what you will learn in art history is about iconography, is about how words work, communication, um, of the time. And it's very much the same with advertising, marketing, and getting, connecting with your people. It's very similar. So I think it's just shaped in a different way for Pinterest, for example.
That's I love that. When I saw your history and I was doing research on where you had come from and what you are doing now, it just made sense to me. This is a very visual platform,
Yep.
and until probably 150, 200 years ago, a lot of people didn't know how to write. Not everybody knew how to write.
Exactly.
If you go back even further, when we talk about, the greats in art, most people didn't know how to write. It was, priests and, preachers and scribes that knew how to
Yep.
write. So everything that the stories they wanted to tell was through visual. So to me, that connection made a lot of sense. And if you're watching, listening, and had not made that connection, I think this is interesting, because then you also know who you might need to hire, or why there's a disconnect between what you want to say and how people see it on Pinterest. If there's something not jiving,
Yep.
think about the visual storytelling you have to do, not
Yeah.
just put up a picture.
Yeah. It's so important. It just gets through to our brain in such a quicker way than reading a whole block of text, for example. So yeah.
That
Um,
makes that makes sense.
yeah.
So, Trona, you advise small businesses who might be resource constrained. So they might not
Yep.
have a lot of time, they might have small budgets, they might not have the design skills.
Yeah.
What are some of the actions that you would recommend somebody do right away? A quick win that somebody who can do. Is that something that you recommend to your clients? I mean, I'm sure you
Yeah.
probably have a long strategy, but when you look at a Pinterest account, you do a quick audit. What are some quick wins that you could share with us today, that when we look at ours, that we're like, oh, that's something I can do and I can work on?
Yeah. So a very quick way I think would be to have a look at your Instagram content, for example, and think about how you can repurpose that to fit Pinterest. Because most people are using Reels on Instagram, which have very limited reach. But if you put it onto Pinterest, it can, drive traffic for months and years to come. So reuse that content that you have. What I would suggest doing though is then having a look at the keywords that people are using on Pinterest to connect with them. So on Instagram, you're using probably like lower funnel sort of ideas. You probably know your audience and it's more conversational. Where on Pinterest, people are actively going to look for something, for example, maybe we're coming up to Christmas. So a Christmas gift guide, or a Christmas outfit, that type of thing. So if you're like a fashion brand, for example, and you're putting out content on Instagram, you can reuse that to just think about how people would be sharing it. Are they starting to think about maybe Guy Fawkes night, cozy outfit ideas for Guy Fawkes, autumn ideas, all that type of thing? You really have to think about the intent that people are going to with Pinterest and how you can then reuse that in the content that you already have. We are so time limited as small businesses. So you want to reuse that content that you do have, which you've probably got lots and lots, even like product images on your website, or maybe blog posts, or even older ones. Repurpose them and reuse them. I think that's the best way to start doing it. Just start from what you have.
That's great. And I have done that strategy, but I haven't thought about that at all in the last few
Yep.
years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such an aha moment.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense. Now, when somebody repurposes, can you just clarify for somebody who's watching? So I've got these reels
Mhm.
on Instagram. Can you share them exactly the same, like download them from Instagram, or do you suggest making them a little bit different or adding different music, or is there a process or something
Yeah.
that you know works?
So So it's similar with all the platforms. You want to remove the watermark, for example. If you have an Instagram watermark, you want to remove it because Instagram doesn't like that either. It just limits reach. So that's the first thing you want to do. Do not use any copyrighted music on Pinterest. It's like YouTube. They will limit your reach and they won't strike it like YouTube will, but they will remove the sounds. And previously you could use like a free resource on Pinterest for sound music, but they've removed that as well. I think they were testing that kind of like, no, everybody wants to try the TikTok idea. So yeah, make sure you don't have a watermark, no copyrighted music. And then for your pin description, use that thing like looking for an autumn meal that's easy to prep with new potatoes, whatever it is that's seasonal at the time, you just go and have a look. Just start popping in keywords in Pinterest search. It's one of the easiest ways to find keywords, and they will then give you an autocomplete, and they will also give you like little guided boxes as well at the top. And those are all keywords that people are using. And just think
Yeah.
about how you can reuse that.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that. I had a big success story with Pinterest. I mean, I'm talking 8, 9 years ago for a client. They had a purple store, or they have a purple store. So everything in the store is purple. That's the theme. Everything is
Yep.
purple. And Pinterest, of course, was huge for them. And so at one point I put in purple and then let kind of Pinterest fill it out. And the highest thing that people were looking for, the first thing that came up was purple hair. Now, obviously, the purple store didn't sell purple hair, but those are people, if they're interested in purple hair, they're also most likely interested in purple things. So I did make a Pinterest board for them with purple hairstyles, and it went wild. And Pinterest was a huge driver for traffic to her website. Somebody ended up coming, this is in the US, coming from Australia and walking into the store. And when they said, "Hey, how did you find us?" They said, "Through Pinterest." So that was one of those aha moments, like, wow. But it started with, you put in the keyword and then it fills it in. So that's a great tip. If you're watching today, if you're listening today, see what people are searching by putting in a short keyword, and Pinterest fills in the rest. And then all the terms that people are looking for. That is fantastic. Thank you for that reminder. I had kind of forgotten about that. So Pinterest is kind of known for slow growth, right?
Yeah.
So, it's long traffic, with X, which used to be Twitter, a tweet goes out and it disappears. And Facebook, maybe a post lasts, 6 to 12 hours. LinkedIn now, we've got this rebound thing where it comes back after 3 or 4 weeks. I've had people commenting on LinkedIn posts from 4 years ago. I'm like, oh no, what's happening? But we know Pinterest is the long game.
Yep.
Knowing that, why are we then talking on Pinterest about trending topics, or is trending topics still out? Can you explain that to somebody who's listening or who's watching? Why should they jump on trending topics if you've just told us it's a long game?
Yeah. So 2 points. So there is no set engagement time on a Pinterest pin. So it's not like Instagram. If you don't get engagement within so many hours, it will just completely drop off. So it can sit completely, nothing happening to it. And then a couple of weeks, months, even years later, somebody will save it and it will kick off. So that's incredible. The second thing is that, trends are, so Pinterest have a trends tool very similar to Google Trends, where it will show you what's up and coming and predicted, that type of thing. And it's an amazing resource. And it does work that way, that it's typically, you have growing trends, seasonal trends, trends that are going to come up in the future. So it is all about predicting what's going to take off, because you do want to start using those trends much longer than it's predicted to take off. So for Christmas example, you'd want to be sharing those Christmas pins already to get it indexed in the system, and then people saving, because that's one of the things that people do on Pinterest. They come to Pinterest to save. So that's what they'll do first. They'll organize their little boards, they'll plan, they'll save, then they'll come back and act on them. So that's another reason why it's longer. So you want to get in front of your audience at every stage from that very beginning of the inspiration. They're just planning right through to those conversions. And you want to create pins all around that. But yeah, it's really about getting ahead of the trends.
Okay. So you're just saying we're live. It's September 23rd, 2025. If you haven't created your Christmas pins yet, you're kind of behind. You should have done that in August or even July to get in the algorithm and to get people to save them. So when in October, November, they start thinking about the outfit they wanted to buy, they go back to the board and they might actually
Yeah.
convert into a
Yeah,
customer.
get ahead of that trend, yeah.
That makes that makes a
When
lot
it
of sense.
Yeah, when it was COVID, people were planning in April for Christmas because they just wanted something to look forward to. But yeah, people, I think that's one of the main things you remember is that people go to Pinterest to plan. So you want to get them at those very early stages. And there's a stat, I think it's like 96% of searches are unbranded. So people are very much still in that deciding stage. They haven't set on like it's a Nike pair of trainers they want or a Levi's jeans or whatever. They're very open to all ideas. So that's where you want to really get in front of them as well.
Okay. So when we talked about trends, how about the algorithm,
Mm.
Trona? When we talk about, changes in algorithm, Pinterest, I've been on Pinterest probably 15, close to 15 years. Whenever it came out, I think I was pretty, not a really early adopter, but pretty early
Mm.
adopter. There's been a lot of algorithm changes.
Yep.
Now you can have promoted pins. Now you can have videos. The pin sizes has changed. Group boards. This is the big, long time ago. Group boards used to
Yeah.
be a thing. So how does somebody know what works on Pinterest right now? If somebody said, okay, I'm going to open up my Pinterest. I listened to Doreen have this interview with Trona. This is great. I've got this Pinterest board sitting somewhere or this Pinterest account. I want to restart it. What do we need to know about the Pinterest algorithm that might have changed? Something that's working right now.
So yeah, I think one of the reasons that Pinterest eludes so many people is because it's almost counter to Instagram. Saves are weighted very highly in the Pinterest algorithm because they see that as like people are saving it and they're going to come back to it, whereas it's not as weighted so highly on Instagram. They're more like sending out stuff, it's more clickbaity driven, whereas Pinterest is very much inverse to that. So it's another reason why it's a slower burn is because you don't have that sort of dopamine hit that you get with Instagram. But yes, saves are very highly rated. So you want to create pins that are designed to be saved by people, as well as those outbound clicks that we want. So you want a variety of saves, outbound clicks. Those things are really good. But I think impressions can give you a good idea of maybe if your content is getting seen across, but don't worry too much about that. I mean, if you're getting low impressions, certainly maybe there's something you could change. Maybe the visual element needs to change, the keywords need to change, maybe the board that it's in needs to change. Maybe that needs a better description because the board is a key way that Pinterest understands what a pin is about as well. So not just the board description, the board title, the board description, but also the pins that surround that pin in a board all feeds into Pinterest understanding what just one pin is about. So I think have a look at your analytics. You can drill down not just on individual pins, but you can have a look at what boards are doing well, and then you can assess that as well. But I think the main things are impressions, but don't bother too much. It just means that somebody saw it. So it doesn't really give you any indication, but saves and outbound clicks are the other ones that are really key.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So let's talk about the big elephant in the room, AI. Yay, it's everywhere. AI is on LinkedIn, on YouTube, every platform.
Yeah.
What's happening on Pinterest with AI? You knew it probably I was going to ask this.
Yeah, so
Are there AI detectors? Are there
yeah.
AI features. I haven't logged into Pinterest. Well, I logged in to get ready for this
Mm,
session, and I use it all the time for recipes. I've stopped
yeah.
using it for business, but I use it for recipes all the time. But what is happening with AI? Where is AI integrated, and
Yeah.
what do we need to know about it?
So there's sort of main two ways, and the first way is that once Google stopped a lot of the sort of bro marketers getting all their traffic, they moved to Pinterest, and they used AI to whip up blog posts and everything. So for a period there, I think last year it was especially bad. Um, there was lots of posts flooded in that was AI, but they've moved quite swiftly to counter that. They're using like Cloudflare, for example, to stop AI. What's the word I'm usually looking for? Scraping it.
Okay.
They've actually limited scraping on it. So they're trying to protect any content that's on there. But they have also pulled back. I very rarely see any AI content on my own feed, but I am aware that if you do not maybe use it as much as I do, the algorithm won't be as tailored to you. So maybe if you're coming into it like maybe just a few times, like a month or whatever, you maybe see more of that. But you can click on there's like little three dots, and you can click on it and say you don't want to see this. They also have like a little AI. I think it's AI modified on it to let you know that they know that this is AI.
Oh, on the
So
image? On the
yeah,
image?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they
okay. So
have.
that's what I was wondering if because
Yeah,
they have started doing that on LinkedIn,
yeah,
where if they detect an AI image, it'll have a little watermark that
yeah,
says, this is AI. So they have done that, implemented then on Pinterest as well.
yep, yeah, yeah. So they're doing a lot to counter that, just the influx of people just trying to get it, because people still use Pinterest as a way to drive a lot of traffic for ad revenue.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and then the other way that it's being used is actually for the user's benefit. So they've increased um, the use of AI on fashion pins specifically currently. So you can like go to a fashion pin and it will give you a little breakdown of the whole outfit, and then it will pick out keywords that you can then click on, which is really cool. So it gives you a little idea. It's this sort of visual element as well. If maybe you don't know the word for that item, you can say, "Oh, that's what I was looking for," and Pinterest will show you what it is you're looking for. So it's really good way, and that's like an extra way that they've added SEO to this, and I think they're going to start rolling it out a little bit more, but they're mainly using it on fashion pins currently.
So if you
Um,
were to create a fashion pin, you have to add that, or does AI add all of those?
it's just a Pinterest. It's part of Pinterest platform that they do it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Um,
So if
yeah.
you're in the fashion industry, go to Pinterest if you're not
Yeah,
there. I'm
it's really
assuming if
good.
you're in fashion, you should be on
Yeah,
Pinterest. But
absolutely.
sometimes I do think it's overlooked
Yeah.
often. And so I was very excited to have this conversation with you today about what's happening now. So AI in the fashion pins, and AI detection on images. Any AI tools that help you with analytics in the back end? Have you seen anything there?
No, not really yet. What they have did though was they have introduced conversion insights. It's not completely new. They've rolled it out over the last couple of years. And what it is, it's a way for you to get more information on what's actually happening on a pin. So it's very similar to if you add like a Facebook pixel to your website, you add the Pinterest tag. Um, and you would do that if you're running ads, but you can also use it organically. So it'll tell you lots more things like this was added to your bag, this pin made a checkout, that type of thing, which you can't see in your standard analytics. So even if you're not running ads, I recommend that you do that. You get much more information, and that's all AI powered by Pinterest algorithms.
All right. So we're getting close to the end of the conversation, but you just mentioned it. Let's talk a little bit about advertising
Mm,
on Pinterest. I do think that that's area where a lot of people forget that with a little bit of money, you can reach a lot
Yeah.
of people. And
Yeah.
so do you have a strategy for that? When do you recommend starting paid ads? Is it, you got everything in order first, you got to get a bunch of pins up, or do you say we do it all at the same time? I start with a client, I do an organic strategy, but we're going to do some paid pins. What is, I would love to know from you, what would you recommend if somebody comes to you and says, I'm ready to go in on Pinterest? How would you talk about the paid strategy piece?
I think ideally you would have some sort of organic strategy there because you have some sort of analytics to know which pins are already working on Pinterest. Same with any other platform, it's good to have that organic strategy. Having said that, I've recently worked with quite a lot of clients who have very limited presence on Pinterest organically, and they have seen incredible results from ads. But they have their website set up for conversions. I think that's something that people overlook is, yeah, you're getting the traffic from Pinterest, but what's happening on your website, that has to be set up as well.
Yeah.
For organic and paid. So, yeah. Previously, I would probably said, build a good, strong organic strategy, but currently I'm going to say it depends.
That's good. And I love that you brought that up, because oftentimes marketers are not have our fingers in all of the things, right? There might be a webmaster, or there might be an email funnel, and there might be when I started out as a social media manager, I didn't have control over even the blog often for my clients. I mean, finally, a couple of years in, I was like, okay, let's get some content on there. And I would often be the blog editor. I would do blog writing. But if you don't have say in the conversion piece, if you don't have access to analytics even, it makes it harder. If you're a content creator or a social media manager and you manage the socials, but you don't have access to all the rest of the stuff, it makes it hard to know when your campaigns are working. So being part of a team and getting information back and forth is really important. So I love that you said that you have to be sure that your website is set up for conversions, that you can track them, and that you can see them in real time to know what's working, in order to say, hey, this pin's doing really well, let's put some more money here. You need to be able to work on that strategy.
Yes, absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense, but I love that you said that. So how can people connect with you, Trona? I know that you were introduced to me by a mutual friend, Valentina, who lovely is watching today.
Yeah, we love Valentina.
I know. So how can people connect with you and learn from you? Because it was hard for me to find a Pinterest expert in my sphere. And I asked around, and she's like, oh, you got to talk to Trona. So I'm very excited to meet you and have you as a resource now moving forward. If somebody wants to know more, if somebody might have a client or they might want to work with you, where can they find you?
I'm pretty much everywhere apart from Facebook or YouTube. I'm on Instagram, Pinterest. If you search my name in Google, Trona Freeman, you'll find me quite easily. And my main website from that is services.eyeline.com, where you'll find all my services and free information and that to help you get started on Pinterest.
Excellent. I will put all of that information in the show notes. Of course, if you're here till the end, I want to thank you for being here with us live on Strategy Talks. Trona, it was a very much a joy, my pleasure to speak with you today about Pinterest and the future of Pinterest. I'm glad they are around, and they have kind of moved from that social media platform to search engine to now e-commerce. If any of those words mean anything to you, you got to check out the new Pinterest and what's happening there. I'll be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.